Hi everyone. It's me, Tracy Nieuwenheyzen-Petersen, over here, the founder of Social What PTY LTD. First of all, I just want to say belated Happy New Year. Welcome to 2025 for Social What. Um, we have been quiet. We have been rebuilding. We have been planning. Um, and secondly, I just want to say thank you to all our followers, our viewers, those that have shared, those that have supported our little business. Just thank you from 2024. And I believe that 2025 will be an amazing year going forward. We have some exciting new products that will be launching, so I do hope you stay tuned for that. We have still our amazing existing products with new designs coming out. We have a lot of stories to share as well. And that is what I'm here to do today. I know it's been a journey, even myself. I had to take a little break, what I always say, be kind to yourself. And I needed to be kind to myself and take a little break. And you know what? I was like, yes, Tracy, you are rebuilding. Yes, Tracy, you are still building. You are creating products. But yay, you customers, your viewers out there wondering where you are. So I just wanted to pop in and also continue with our story. So over the last few months, we have been sharing two stories. It was, the day in the life of a social worker, which I will be continuing as well, and then also the story of Social What PTY LTD. So this brings us to chapter 4 of Social What, and chapter 4 is called childhood trauma. So that's one of the seeds from which this company was grown, which was my own childhood trauma. I grew up in an abusive household, one parent having mental issues and also struggling with their own past and childhood trauma. Now the parent also struggling with their past trauma, PTSD, as well as substance use disorder. Um, I just want to say out here that when I speak about myself and my story and my family, I am not out here to badmouth anyone. I am not out here to paint an ugly picture of any of my family members. The reason why I share my story is that I feel and I'm a firm believer in somebody can take something from your story and it can help someone out there. So for me, I have grown, I have worked through my trauma, I have gotten the help that I needed. And I feel with me having been blessed with that and being blessed with that journey, I feel that my way of paying it forward is telling my story for others out there who are still in that struggle, who need that little light, who need to not feel alone in this world. So my childhood trauma comes from various parts. Number one, while I was saying others learning from me, something stood out from my childhood. I grew up with very, very, very conservative parents, in the sense that you were not able to ask them questions. You were not able to say, but why are you doing this? Or why should I do that? Why should I not do that? This was the law, and that is how you followed it. You didn't question the law because it was seen as backchatting. You didn't ask them about their experiences because you are a child. And I feel that as I have gone through my teenage years, my young adulthood years as well, I feel that so many things could have gone differently if there was communication, open and honest communication. If you as a child could have understood why there's certain rules in your house, um, what was the story behind those rules. I always say, if there is a crazy rule out there, there is a funny or interesting story behind it. And I feel that if we could share those stories, so many others could just learn from them. instead of having to go through the same that we have. So that's one part of my childhood trauma that brings me to social work, PTY, LTD, and also brings me to sharing my stories, because I feel that we need to break these barriers and of communication, these cultural norms that stand in the way of our growth, the and learning and understanding. We need to be the generation that breaks it. We need to be the generation that grows and builds together and not against one another. The other part is that as a child, um, a lot of my childhood was stolen in a sense that I had to grow up really fast. I remember also how I learned to read. So I'm a first generation, first language English learner. The rest of my family went to school in their teaching language Afrikaans. I spoke only Afrikaans until I was the age of 7, and my parents had put me in school, and I was put in a first language English class. So I am the first generation in my family um, to have an education in the teaching language of English. So I remember my brother, he's a way older than me, like 17 years. And my mom would be in and out of the mental health or psychiatric ward at hospital. My father would be on substances. So it was me and my brother. I have another brother that has an intellectual disability. So it was us against the world, me having to grow up very fast, not having the support in English in my family as well. So my eldest brother, he used to work for the city council, and I remember when they would be on what they call standby, they would get these, um, I don't know if you call them survival packs and energy packs or whatever food hamper little thingy. So there will be canned goods in there, energy bars, energy sweets, and things like that. So we always had a lot of canned products in our home. And I think this was one of my coping mechanisms, but also how I learned to read. Like I would always keep busy and find things because I grew up alone. I always say I grew up like an only child, but I would always unpack these cans out of the kitchen cupboard and read them or try and read them, and like find words to do my homework with or find meaning in them and so forth. So that's the one thing that helped me to build this as well. Um, Another thing is, I remember as a child, I had imaginative play, is what we would probably call it now. Back then, it was just, oh, she's playing by herself. Let her be. I had all these dolls and books, and I would build my own classroom and play with these dolls and help them do their homework and engage with them and speak to them. There's another thing that stood out for me always, like this is very personal and some people would laugh at it, and that's all good. I am just asking that there would be no negativity pointed towards my story or hatred of any kind. Like if you don't agree with anything I'm saying, purely log off, change your page, go somewhere else. This is not for you, it's not for you. Another thing that I used to do is I used to speak to my dolls and tell them, like, I would always put them in certain positions and to see if they would move at night. And if they were alive, like being there, like Toy Story, basically. When the child went to sleep, his toys would have their own lives. So I always would put them in certain positions to make sure if that is still how they are in the morning. I would also speak to them to say, if you are alive, if you move, please just let me know, we can play together. So that's another part of it. And I had some comfort as well, toys, not really toys, but in the sense of I built some comfort mechanism, and it's something I still do. You might have picked it up in some of my videos as well, playing with my hair. When I was growing up, I had a long pigtail. And that was my comfort. I would hold on to it, I would sleep with it, and still now when I go to sleep, I would play with my hair. If I'm in an anxious situation, I would play with my hair. If I'm out of my comfort zone, I would play with my hair. Um, so yes, and a lot of when I think about how I engage now and the support that I require from my husband. Sometimes I just need to sit on his lap and curl up and be held after a long day. And I feel that a lot of these things come from me not having certain parts of my childhood. And that is a part of social what PTY, where that seed comes from, in a sense that I want children to be able to have that comfort. I want children to be able to be children. I want my toys and communication tools and things to give them that chance of being a child, experiencing that comfort, being able to just be and not having to survive. Sometimes, just even if it is for a moment, even if it's just for that hour during therapy, for them to have that break, to be that child, to have that comfort, to be able to communicate, to have something that brings them that childhood joy. um Another part of my childhood trauma is that when I um, was growing up and things were not good at home, I would bury myself in my schoolwork. Like, I excelled at school, and like I would always be in my books, always in homework, always in that, to the point where I weighed my own value based on my academic achievements. Um, and I got to a point where I was in undergrad, um, life gone wrong for me, and I failed in third year and I didn't complete my first degree. I was then staying on my own with my partner at the time, or my husband, which was my partner at the time, um, and then started over in social work. There was time I was studying psychology. I started over. I put myself through university and finished my social work degree. After that, I started working as a social worker. And like a few months later, I started my postgraduate diploma in addiction care. And these were all parts of my childhood trauma. I studied addiction care not because it's a field that I wanted to work in. I wouldn't say I have no interest in it, but it was my Achilles heel throughout my studies and throughout my first few months of working with people that have substance use disorders, children that had suffered because of parents with substance use disorders really triggered me. And the way I learned was academically, learning, understanding how things are done, and being able to get that bursary and complete that postgrad diploma helped me to grow as a person. It helped me to understand, it helped me to have more compassion and understanding of others, and it also helped me to work through my own trauma. As I said, my parents don't speak, so that was not an option of us speaking through it. Another thing was that when I got to a point where my first social work job, not my first job, my first social work job, it ended not on a good note, and it broke me before it ended. Like, when I was going through that tough time, I had a professional burnout. I felt like I was losing my world because academics and excelling in life was how I coped. And I remember my brother saying to me, "You need to have something else." And up until that point, I felt that I had no talents, I had no skills. And during that period of time, I discovered or rediscovered a skill that my mom taught me as sewing. And I started sewing for the kids, and I was able to refine it. Like, the creativity just came out. I was learning to paint. I could paint all of a sudden. I could write blogs. It just came out. And sometimes when we are just in survival mode, we have tunnel vision even with ourselves. We look at ourselves in the mirror and we only see one version of ourselves. For years, I told myself and others, I have no talents. Academic is the only thing I'm strong at. I can read and remember things and stuff like that, until this part of me blossomed. And it also is a big part of how social what PTY LTD came about. So sometimes, like 2 weeks ago, as part of my job, I do have a full-time job now. Also, ladies and gentlemen, let me not say where and how, but I do have a full-time job again. I guess that's also causing me to readjust and see how I'm dealing with social work as well as my full-time job. But in my full-time job, I visited this children's home, and I was sitting with another social worker and some family members in what we call a family panel, and we were talking about things that happened. And the social worker said something very profound. It might not be new to anyone, and it wasn't new to me, but that moment just, let it stick. And she's like, things happen and we don't always know why. And I was like, you know what? And I always believe that whatever I'm going through is for a reason. Whatever happened to me is part of who I need to become one day. And I met someone years ago. It was a manager of mine. She had not gone through a lot of trauma in her life, had a fairly easy life. And when we spoke about my father, and I was telling her, like, I had a conversation, you see there the hair thing goes. I had a conversation with my husband in which we spoke about our parents, because we both have our own issues with both our parents. Um, and I said, and he said to me, like, if you could ever choose to have a different father, would you? And I said, no. And he was like, no way, you are lying. That cannot be. And I said to him, you know what? If it was not for the parents that I have, especially with my father, I would not be as resilient as I am. I would not see the world the way that I do. I would not be the person that I am. And I have gotten to a point of loving who I am. Regardless of my oopsies, my mistakes, knocking my head, I love who I am. And I feel like if any part of my past or any part of anyone in my life had not been the way it was, I would not be that person today. So, coming back to her saying that we don't know why things happen, but they happen, I feel that another reason, and this probably most important reason why I share my story, is that I feel like there's something called the cycle of life, and you depend on someone else's life to keep you alive. There's someone you're looking up to that keeps you going. There's something you look up to that keeps you going, and sometimes you sharing your story keeps someone else going. And that is what I'm here to do, to keep anyone going that might need to hear what I have to say, or might need to hear what I have gone through, or see what I have gone through and what I have become, or who I have become. So that is the gist of chapter 4 of Social Work PTY LTD, Childhood Trauma. I hope that you enjoyed that video. I hope that you share it with others that might need it. Continue following our journey and watch out for product advertisements, and just continue to be with us on this. Be blessed. Have an amazing 2025, even though it has just started. Let us do this together. Thank you everyone for watching.